Hello guys, come on in, make yourselves at home as you should when you're a guest in Bradley's house. I am your co-host, Jarett Orr. She is the executive director of the Knoll Family Foundation, our podcast guru here, Ms. Kellie Knoll. Kellie, how are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thank you, Jarett. How are you?
Personally, I'm doing pretty good, Kellie. I can't complain.
Good.
You know, when things are good, they're good, and when things are bad, they're still pretty fucking good, right?
That's true. Right.
I don't have much to complain about, but
we
on
have
a
much
sad
to be
note,
thankful for.
yeah, on a sad note, I did get a little bit of bad news today, though, and I just wanted to kind of take a second. And people know that we talk so much about music and we have fun guests on here, but obviously we talk so much about recovery and the war that so many people are out there fighting right now. And a childhood friend of mine, Danny Christophus, unfortunately this week lost his war. And his brother Joey was somebody that has been incredibly close to me, like family, throughout my childhood. And getting that news today was genuinely heartbreaking. And I just wanted to take a second and send some love out to Joey and the Christophus family. And again, this is just something that was it was tough to hear, and it's something that we have to deal with. And I'm just thinking about those guys a lot and sending a lot of love out to them. And before we got the show started, I just wanted to say that I'm thinking about you guys.
That's awesome. You know, it's so heartbreaking, and sadly, you're not alone. You know, I get messages from people constantly who've just gotten similar type news, and it breaks my heart every time because I know what they're feeling. And addiction is such a thief, and you know, it robs the addict of the life that they could have had, and it robs their loved ones and friends of the connection and the relationship that they could have had, and of course it robs the world of whatever contribution they would have made. And I really, it's those types of things that really spur me on to do what we're doing, because it is such a big deal. It is such an important thing, and it touches everybody in such a personal way. And there are very few people that have not been touched by a loss from an overdose or something related to that. And so, and sadly, I think we're just going to start seeing more and more of it. So, I'm really glad that we're doing what we're doing. And Jarett, I'm very proud of you for being a part of this. And we definitely send our love to Joey and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kellie, you know, we've talked about it, and let's make no mistake, we're in the midst of a war right now, and yes, the Knoll Family Foundation and Bradley's house is going to be, one of the very, very small armies that are out there on the ground fighting this war. And you've said it a million times that it can't be done alone. And there's a lot of other amazing groups and individuals that are out there and that are doing what they can to help in that war. And we're all fighting together. And I think today's house guest will help shed a little more light on that, right, Kellie?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about great timing. We are super fortunate to have with us someone who is on the front lines of the solution, of actually helping people, making a difference. And it's such it's something that I truly admire, because I can't imagine how difficult it must be to deal with the heartbreak and the tragedy that goes along naturally with this type of work on a daily basis. And so I have the utmost respect for our guest today and people like him who do this kind of work. And so I have to say how I was introduced to him. One of our board members, Tyson Sullivan, who I've mentioned before, he's such a great resource for the foundation, because as you know, since we don't have the facility open yet, a lot of times we'll get requests from people that need help, or they have a loved one that needs some immediate help, and they can't wait until we get the money raised to open Bradley's house. So what we're able to do is have Tyson reach out to them, and he helps them with some recommendations, based on their situation. And I just find that to be such a phenomenal service that we can offer, in the meantime, until we actually have a facility of our own. So in the process of doing the work that he does in the recovery industry, Tyson had the pleasure of meeting our guest that we have today, and he told me about him afterwards. And I was so excited to have him on the show, because their facilities sound very similar to what we're trying to do with Bradley's house. So I've never spoken with him before until, right before this episode. So I'm super excited to learn more about it along with all of our listeners. Today we have with us the Vice President of Business Development for Recovery Unplugged in Austin, Texas, Joseph Gorordo. Thank you so much for being with us, Joseph.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be in the house, and you did a great job saying my last name. So I just wanted to give you props real quick.
Thank you. We can tell everybody. Right before we started recording, I was super worried, like, I want to make sure I say this correctly. So Joseph was kind enough to give me instructions on how to say it. And will you say it for us the correct way? Because clearly I did not say it perfectly.
It is Gorordo.
Yeah, it sounds so much better when you say it than when I do, but thank you for being patient with me. Okay, so Vice President of Business Development at Recovery Unplugged. Can you tell us first a little bit about Recovery Unplugged and what they do so that we have a frame of reference as we start talking about your involvement with them?
Yeah, for sure. So Recovery Unplugged is an addiction treatment organization at this point. So we have 4 locations. We're in South Florida, Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Northern Virginia. And we do detox, residential, PHP, IOP, like all the levels of addiction treatment. And, we really kind of have 3 core values to what we do. One is that recovery inclusion, right? We believe that all recovery is valid and it's all equal. So whether it's, a 12-step program or Buddhism or yoga or, medication-assisted treatment, nothing is off the table when it comes to finding a unique way for somebody to get sober or to recover. The second thing is that we believe that no one just decides to be an addict, right? I know I just didn't decide to be an addict, right?
Absolutely.
So we believe in having highly qualified master's level therapists with a ton of different specialties, right? From trauma to LGBTQ issues to mental health, et cetera, so that we can get to the stuff that's behind the alcohol and the drugs.
Mm.
And then the third thing is, we believe that music is medicine, right?
Yes.
So we have taken music and all the benefits that we know that music has, right? From like lowering anxiety, connecting to memory, helping people process and have catharsis and emotions, et cetera, all that good stuff that music does for us, right? Taken that and implemented it in really every way that we could possibly think of into
Awesome.
addiction treatment. So from there's something called a pre-screen that you do before you go into rehab, right? You answer a bunch of questions about your drug use and your history and all that to make sure you're medically appropriate. But then the last questions we ask are like, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite genre? What's a song that makes you happy, right? And so when someone comes into treatment, whether we're picking them up at the van, in a van at the airport, or if they're just coming directly into the facility and doing paperwork, we play that music for them. Like right when they arrive.
Oh, wow.
Just to put them at ease and, let them know we're listening to them. But music is integrated into everything we do from start to finish. So like when people discharge, they have their own special custom little MP3 player with their like recovery playlists and all that cool stuff. So I get kind of excited about it when I talk about it.
I'm getting so excited hearing you. Like, I feel like, Recovery Unplugged is what Bradley's house wants to be when it grows up. Like, you guys really have such an incredible program. And when Tyson texted me when he was out there meeting, he's like, you've got to come see this place. Like, it's so great. He was so excited because it's all the things that were behind, our impetus for wanting to start the Knoll Family Foundation and open Bradley's house so that we could incorporate music, specifically for people in the music industry as it relates to them. But because music is such a huge part of our lives and such a huge part of so many people's lives, and being able to incorporate that into the recovery process, I think is so powerful.
Absolutely. And I mean, did Tyson tell you about the moments that we decided we liked each other?
No.
So he came out to see the place, to see Recovery Unplugged, and I was kind of showing him around, and we were talking. I was like, "Oh, you're from Cali? That's cool. Whatever." I'm just chit chatting, right? Mm-hmm. And I was showing him part of the facility, and he just grabbed a guitar that was sitting around, and started playing the intro to Badfish. And
Oh.
without saying a word, like he didn't say like, "Hey, do you like Sublime?" or anything like that. He
Uh-huh.
just started playing it, and I started singing it,
Oh
and we
my
just
gosh.
rattled off Badfish without any kind of preparation, and like
Oh, what a
we were
moment.
friends, like immediately,
Yeah.
like connection.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that'll
so
do it.
cool. Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it. That'll make a friendship. Kelly, I got to ask you, and I know hindsight is 2020, and this is a difficult question for me to even ask, but with everything, we've come so far in this war and so many things have developed. Looking back, if any musician that we've lost, but specifically Bradley, if he would have had an opportunity to have a facility where it was music based and he could sit in there and play his music, and we might not be sitting here right now, right?
That's a hard one to answer, because we could come up with a lot of what ifs, but it's all speculation. I would like to think that when a program like that is available at no charge for musicians in need who don't have the funding to get, a quality recovery program, I would like to think that that will improve their outcomes. I really do. And I think, honestly, I think it's too hard for me to kind of put myself back and go, oh, if only, if he'd had this, if he'd had that. It's hard to say because there's so many variables. He did go into several programs and never stuck with them, and it wasn't the fault of the program. Because obviously sometimes it works for people and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's the methodology, sometimes they're just not ready. I mean, there's just too many variables. But what I think is the important thing to focus on is that, can this help people in the future? Can this help avoid a loss in the future? And I think it can. Will it help every single person? No. I think we have to be realistic. But can it increase their chances of sticking with the program, of staying clean, of transforming their life in a positive direction? I think it can help increase those odds, and that's what really motivates me. And the program that you guys have, Joseph, is so, and I just have started, like researching on the website and talking with Tyson and stuff. There's so many things that you guys have done, as you said, to incorporate it in so many different aspects of treatment. How did that all start? Where did that all come from?
So I joined Recovery Unplugged after it existed for I want to say 3 or 4 years. So I have the third, fourth, fifth hand accounts of how it all went down. But the story goes that there was this guy, Paul Pellinger, who is one of our founders, and he had worked in addiction treatment in South Florida for decades, right? He was just like a
The
recovery guy down there, worked in
big
treatment, knew
mecca for
everybody.
recovery in South Florida, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And he, as when he was working as a clinician, has started to use music in different ways. And what he found was that, with like the toughest cases, he tells a story about this guy who'd been in prison for 10 years that he was trying to help kind of reincorporate into society, right? And the guy refused to talk to him ever. And finally, like through a song, they connected. But point is, Paul had this idea to like take the little bits of music that you would see in treatment centers, right? Because most treatment centers have a guitar lying around or have a
Right.
music therapist come in once a week. Or there's a great organization up in California, the Rocks Recovery guys. They
Yeah.
go out.
Wes Gear is on
They
our board, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Wes, great
Yeah.
dude. So they
Yeah.
go out and do like a session once a week or once a month at a facility, right?
Yes.
And the idea was, there's clients that hate everything about treatment. They hate their therapist, they hate their peers, they hate the meetings, they hate the
Right.
food. But then, but when the music group would happen once a week or whatever, that's what they would vibe with, right? So
Hmm.
Paul wanted to make it into a treatment center. He had this idea that he carried around forever. And he met a guy named Andrew Sawson, who he jokes that the reason he decided to open a rehab is because he was tired of paying for his family members to go to rehab.
That's awesome.
And so the two of them got together and started Recovery Unplugged. Well, they actually started a program. It was called Harmony Recovery, which is not as
Mhm.
good of a name,
No, it's
right?
not.
No. And
It's
so,
clever. They were trying.
yeah, they were trying. But so at the same time that they were getting ready to open Harmony Recovery Center, there was a guy named Richie Supa. And Richie is he's Steven Tyler's best friend. He's been a touring guitarist with Aerosmith, helped write a bunch of their songs, won a Grammy for that song Pink when
Uh-huh.
Aerosmith made their comeback in the 90s. And so Richie had been clean for like 30 years, and he's, been alongside Steven for his recovery journey. And so Richie, like people do when they retire, he moved to Florida and he started going to rehabs, playing music and just, giving back
Oh,
by
that's
doing
rad.
that. And he called it Recovery Unplugged. And so
Ah.
all those paths crossed, and, the rehab called Harmony that was using music met Richie, the guy with the cool name that was also using music. And they were like, okay, we can help each other out here. And so Richie joined the team, and that's when it became
Oh,
Recovery Unplugged.
that's awesome. And
Yeah.
4 states.
4 states. Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it's been really cool though, because I've been with the company since I helped open Austin and Nashville.
Oh, wow.
And uh, seeing the way, the right people find their way to us, right? Like you were
Yes.
talking earlier about how like it's hard to say if this would have helped Brad or if anything could help
Right.
anybody, right? Um, we're the people who need what we do tend to find their way to us, and I've
Mm.
I've heard so many stories from clients of like, I've been to 20 different treatment centers, and I like to tell people that we're for square pegs that people have been trying to fit into round holes.
Yes.
Um, we tend to be kind of a ragtaggy kind of misfit group of
My favorite.
not only clients but like the team.
Yeah. Awesome.
and
That's real. It's
and
genuine.
absolutely, yeah. And I love it. I don't plan on having another job after Recovery Unplugged. Like,
Nice.
I don't think I could work anywhere else at this
How
point.
did you
Well,
get connected with them? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt her.
no, no, no. Go ahead. That's perfect.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
did you get connected with Recovery Unplugged?
So it's actually kind of a cool story. I was working at a treatment center here in Austin and was burnt out. I was really tired. I wasn't finding joy in my work. Um, the place I was working was very old school recovery,
Mm-hmm.
very like old school 12 steps. And I'm not knocking those things, but
Sure.
at that point in my career, like my views on recovery had kind of grown a little bit, and I was frustrated, right? And I was getting ready to leave the recovery treatment industry and, like everybody else in Austin, right, learn how to
Mm,
program and go be a coder,
sure.
right? Um, and I met a guy named Jeremy who had just moved from Florida to Austin to open this new music rehab. And he came up and introduced himself to me. And he told me that it was because I got a little bass clef tattoo behind my ear here.
Nice. Uh-huh.
And he said he saw that tattoo and he was like, that guy'd be into what we do. And so he came and he approached me and he offered me a job. And I actually turned the job down 3, maybe 4 times
Wow.
because, I knew I was not happy working in
Yeah.
treatment anymore. And Jeremy, the last time he called me, he was like, look, bro, like, we're not open yet in Austin. Why don't you fly out to Florida? Go see what we do. We'll cover everything. And if after you go out there, you say no, then I'll leave you alone. Right. And I was like,
Seems
okay,
fair.
whatever. I'll take a free trip to Florida. Right.
You're no
Like,
dummy. Yeah.
so I fly out to Florida with no intention of taking the job. None. But they put me up at a hotel on the beach. They took me to a nice dinner, a little
Wow.
nice lunch. And I'm
A
like,
romance in you.
this is great. Um, but still not, I didn't want a job. I didn't want to do it. But then I sat in on a group, and it's a group called Feel Good Friday that Richie does every Friday out there in Florida. And and I'm a licensed clinician, right? So when the clients come walking into this group, I'm looking at the clients and just kind of noticing how they carry themselves, right? Like, do they seem happy? Just how do they, what's their vibe? And this one guy walked in with with a muscle tee, with like the cutoff
Yeah.
sleeves, and his shoulders were all squared up, and his head was shaved, and his face was very stern. And he walked in and sat in the very back row of group and crossed his arms. And like, as a clinician, I think anybody, right, could look at this guy and say, like,
Sure.
everything about him is screaming, like, leave me alone. I don't want to be here. Don't talk to
Yes.
me. Like, go away. And so I found him very interesting, right? I'm like, how's he going to handle this, like, little happy-go-lucky kumbaya group that they're about to do? And so Richie starts talking, and he plays this song called Enemy that is about being his own worst enemy, right? And as he's playing the song, I'm watching this guy in the back row, and, about a minute into it, he starts leaning forward. About halfway through it, like, he's got his
Mm.
head down, and he's got his face in his hands. And by the end, you can see his shoulders going. That this guy's sobbing in the back row.
Oh gosh.
And, Richie notices this as well and kind of says to him, like, hey, what just happened? Right. And the guy says, it's just, I realized, like, I'm not just my own worst enemy. Right before I got here, me and my best friend overdosed in a hotel room.
Oh gosh.
I was revived and he wasn't. And,
Oh.
and I was sent to treatment.
Oh
And,
gosh.
and it's a horrible thing, right?
That's heavy.
It's heavy, but that opened up a conversation for the group where they started talking about loss and survivor's guilt, right? Just the
Yeah.
way he was beating
Yeah.
himself up. And we got into some of the heaviest stuff that you can talk about in clinical groups. And we were doing it within 10 minutes of group starting. And it was centered around the guy that wanted to be there the least. And I got goosebumps,
Oh
and I was just
gosh.
like, okay, I'm in. You know,
Oh
I,
my
I have to be
gosh.
a part of this.
Yeah. Music touches people and opens people up in a way that nothing else can.
I mean, it cuts through armor, it can
Yeah.
catch you by surprise, right? We've all had those moments where, like, the right song comes on in the grocery store, and all of a sudden you're thinking about people and places and things you hadn't thought about in years, right? And so that's what it is. That's what we use.
Yeah.
That's how. But that's how they got me, right? Like, I saw the music and
Wow.
I was like, okay, I'm in.
That's phenomenal. So you started with them. How long ago was
Yeah.
that?
I just celebrated 5 years.
Wow. Oh my
It is the
goodness.
longest job I've had in my life.
That's impressive. Very
Yeah.
good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background, your recovery story, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I grew up in South Texas in Laredo,
Hmm.
which is a
Okay.
border town, and border towns tend to be places where you can find drugs easily and
Sure.
high quality and cheap. And so, growing up, my parents got divorced early. My mom was a teacher, and so she worked really hard and sacrificed to send me to a private school.
Mm.
So I was the poor kid at the private school,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the only kids that had divorced parents, and didn't have a dad around to teach me, like, dude stuff, like
Yeah.
like how to throw a football, how to play basketball, that kind of stuff. So um, I always felt very other, right? Like,
Yeah.
I always felt like I didn't fit in. Um, and well, I was always an escapist, right? Like, before I had drugs, it was books. I was like that weird kid that would bring a book to school and just read in the back of the room. Um,
Yes.
and I was reading stuff that, like, you probably shouldn't be reading at like 9, 10 years old. I was reading like Stephen King books, and
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
yeah, yeah. So I was, like, attracted to the dark side always. I was always kind of an escapist. Like, the point of the reading was to avoid feeling,
Of
you
course.
know.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, if it wasn't books, it was TV, or it was food, or whatever, right? Anything I
Hmm.
did, I always did too much of.
Yeah.
And then I had my first drink when I was about 10, 11 years old. Just kind of, sneaking booze from, family members with liquor cabinets and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then the first time I smoked pot, I was probably 13, maybe 14. And I stole it from my dad.
Oops.
Um, and, I took a corncob pipe from my grandpa, and I
Oh
took some
no.
weed from my dad. And I didn't have anybody to show me how to smoke weed. You know, so
Oh my
like
gosh.
there was seeds and stems. It was bad. Um, but you know, the first time I drank and the first time I smoked weed, it wasn't like in what most people think of, right? There wasn't like an older kid showing me. There wasn't like a peer pressure thing.
Right.
It was just me trying to change the way I felt.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so, you know, as I got older in high school and stuff, like, you know, my access grew, and to where, you know, by the end of high school, I was, you know, I was the stoner kid in school. I almost didn't graduate high school because I had failed my one of my electives, which was yearbook, which
Oh
is
gosh.
which is
How
a
do you
very
fail
challenge.
yearbook, Joseph?
Exactly, exactly. Um,
That's an
I was
easy
gonna
A
fail
right
yearbook.
there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was actually kind of punk rock because part of the yearbook class is you have to go sell ads for the yearbook, right? Like in the
Oh.
back of the yearbook. And I thought that that was a capitalist idea that I shouldn't have to do.
Where was this class for me?
Right. That Jarrett would have been perfect for that. He could have sold enough for everybody in the class.
A sales
Yeah.
class? They were teaching me how to do math. What the fuck school did you go to?
See, private
Oh
school. It's
man.
all about the private
Yeah.
school education.
And things are different on the border, right? Like the borders, it's not the U.S. and it's not Mexico. It's its own thing.
Mm.
It's just a different world, man. Um, but so then, you know, okay, like the escapism, the always feeling different, and I also always had this thing of like I wanted to like get to the next thing already. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I wanted to be bigger than I was and more ahead of where I was. So like I graduated high school, and within 6 months, like I had moved out of my mother's house to get my own apartment. I was dating a stripper. I was selling cocaine. Like 18
You
years
were living
old.
the dream.
I thought I was, you know, like
It
in
really is
my
every 18-year-old
mind,
guy's dream.
yeah, in my mind, like I was living like a movie star, and
Sure.
all the other kids that like went to college
Those
and
chumps.
yeah, they were suckers. They didn't know what they were doing. Um, you know, but like it got dark real fast, you
Yeah,
know. When I was like the, you know, being the first person in your friend group to have their own apartment means that the party comes to you, right?
absolutely.
So I never went without. And it also meant like, you know, the less desirable element is gonna, you know, they're looking for a free place to crash and do drugs too.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
That
so
stripper girlfriend probably kept lots of friends around too.
yeah.
That didn't
I'm
hurt.
sleeping at Joe's tonight.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
hurts.
It was, you know, I threw a party, she came over, she never left. That's just the way it went down. But you know, it like I said, it got dark real fast, right? It went from like ecstasy and shrooms and pills and to like cocaine and heroin and crack real fast.
Ouch. Yeah.
And you know, I started experimenting with heroin with my best friend at the time, and we were both 18, and
Oh,
we you know, we would do it once or twice and then like, okay, we're not going to do it again for a week because we're not going to get addicted, right? We had plans and systems for
sure.
not getting
Yeah.
addicted.
Because you're smarter
And
than all those other addicts, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
We don't want to
bad.
be like that. We're just trying to
Yeah.
party, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, one day we were trying to not do heroin we decided we're going to take Xanax instead, right? And she went home and scored some dope and overdosed and died, you know, and
Oh,
we were
gosh.
both 18 years old.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
yeah, I mean, real quick, you know, like I realized that I was not a I was can I cuss on here? Is
Yes,
cussing okay?
yes,
You know, I realized
absolutely. We do
I
it
wasn't a
often.
okay. I realized I wasn't a fucking grown up, you know, and I had
Yeah,
no idea what I was
exactly.
doing, and I was in
Yeah.
way over my head. And but what happened is in a small town like Laredo, Texas, right? When everyone knows you're best friends with the girl who died, nobody wants to come over anymore. You know,
Oh,
like
man.
you become a pariah. But
Yeah.
you know who was willing to come over was the other heroin addict.
Of course.
And so that started off, 6 years of addiction
Oh
where,
gosh.
till I was 24 years old, it was, you know, everything you can think of, right? Like,
Oh.
homeless, living in my car, getting arrested, snatching purses, pawning stuff, breaking into my
Mm-hmm.
mom's house,
Yeah.
all, going to rehab, getting out of rehab, relapsing, going back to rehab, all that stuff. I got sent to Mexico to go to rehab for a year out there,
Mm.
and rehab is very different in Mexico.
I'll
I'll
bet.
just say that. And I just spent 6 years trying to get off of heroin, and the goal was never to be sober, right? My goal was
Right.
like, I wanted all the bad shit to stop happening. I
Right.
wanted to
Just
stop getting arrested. I wanted to stop being homeless.
yeah. You just want to go back to having fun and partying.
Yes, I wanted to
Right.
get that back. Like,
Right.
smoke a little weed, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the last 6 months that I was using, I had I achieved that dream, Kelly. I had a job. I was going to college. I had two different girlfriends. My family thought I was sober. I was going to 12-step meetings, picking up chips, saying I was
Mm-hmm.
sober. And like nothing bad was happening. And I was still shooting dope.
Mm.
Um, and so it's like, oh man, like I did it, like the dream. But in reality, like I still hated myself and didn't want to
Right.
wake up in the morning and would go to bed praying, like, don't let me wake up. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
And
rough place to be.
yeah, and like that was my bottom, like that emotional realization of like, this, I'm never going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't all that other stuff that people think of as bottoms, right? Like,
Right.
people dying, people getting arrested. It was that emotional understanding of like being totally alone and totally miserable, and the drugs wouldn't even work anymore.
Yeah. And feeling like it would
So
never change, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
just that cycle, right? Like wake up, hustle money, get drugs, do it again.
Wow.
I think it's almost when you're young, like you were, it's like that lifestyle almost seems glamorous, right? Like you picture it's like every day's a rock and roll party and everyone's laughing and shooting champagne all over each other and passing
Oh
drugs
my God.
Yeah,
around. And
yeah,
it's a great time. And I think the part that everybody misses out on is the part that you were talking about, the homelessness, the stealing purses. And we've had so many different guests come on here and tell their story. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, fuck, that just sounds horrible. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing at all that is fun about that. And you're not the first guest to say, and the drugs weren't even working anymore. I wasn't even having
yeah,
fun. I
no,
wasn't catching a buzz. Um, it's just, it's so crazy to think how fast it happens.
yeah, absolutely. And and the thing is, like, I think what happens is like there's a couple of like really amazing stories and moments in all that like you latch onto, right? You're like, oh man, there was that one night that XYZ happened, right? And that was a great night. But you blank out, like, because most of the time the party was, 8 people sitting on a couch with a TV on mute, just staring at the wall, right? Like,
Yeah.
and every once in a while someone would be like, I'm fucked up. And
Mm.
that was the party, right? That was partying. And it's miserable. It's
Yeah.
miserable. Um,
So
but
what
so
finally
so
changed?
yeah, let's get to the good part, right? So the last time I went to treatment, um, so I mentioned that like my mom thought I was sober and like my family thought I was sober, right?
Right.
And so one day, it was a Sunday, I remember this. I went, I told my mom, I was like, look, Ma, I relapsed. Like, I'm gonna go to rehab tomorrow. Just, I need $20. Like, I need you to give me money so I can go fix.
Mm.
And which I had never done before, right? And my poor mother, she gives me the money and I go do what I needed to do. And I get back and she's like, here, you need to talk to this guy. He's at this rehab. He's going to ask you some questions. And this guy, I go through all the questions. And he says, okay, we have a bed for you. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. And, it kind of clicked for me like, okay, I guess I'm going to rehab tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I was like, I might as well go pawn something. So I grabbed a guitar and tried to sneak out of my mother's house to go pawn it. And my mother saw me as I was backing the car out of the driveway, and she ran out and threw herself on the ground in the middle of the street to keep me from leaving.
Moms
And
are amazing.
yeah, and my mom is a very proper Hispanic woman that, like, in the way she was raised was like, everything is private. Family business is not meant to be discussed. Like,
Exactly.
And the worst thing is to be shamed in front of like your peers, right?
Sure.
And so she's in the middle of the street in our neighborhood that we'd lived in for 20 years. And she's like ugly crying, like snot dripping, screaming, like, please don't go. If you go, you're going to die. I know it. I know it.
Oh, gosh.
And I was so deep in my addiction that I looked at her laying on the ground on her knees and was just like, give me more money then, and I didn't feel bad about it at all.
Yeah.
So that's always stuck with me as like, a moment to remember.
Yeah.
And the good part is that was the last time I saw my mom cry,
Awesome. Yeah.
And
that was the addiction talking. And I think people who are listening to this that can relate to that, I want them to understand that that's, obviously that you hold on to that as an important shift, an important moment in your life, but that was the addiction. That wasn't you.
Yeah.
That was, and that's what's such a bitch about addiction is that it makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do and treat people ways that you would normally treat them. And, and that's got to fuck with your head because you start thinking, maybe I am a shitty person, maybe, but
Absolutely.
but that's not it. It's just what this addiction is doing to you. And I like to make that distinction because I do think that for so long there was the stigma associated with addiction that, well, that was your choice. You made that decision.
Yeah.
You made
Why
that
don't you
choice.
just quit?
Right. Yeah. And so maybe that's who you are, but that's not it. And unfortunately, when there's so much guilt and shame heaped onto people that are struggling with addiction, that it makes it that much harder to recover.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last thing you need is one more roadblock.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you point that out because there was a powerful moment for me the last time I was in treatment where I was talking to my therapist and I don't remember what we were talking about, but I looked at her and I was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm just an asshole. And she said, who told you that? I don't think you're an asshole. And I was like, oh, you don't know. And she's like, no, really, who told you you're an asshole? And I thought about it and it's like, me,
Yeah.
I was the only person running that narrative of like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you're an asshole. Like, look what you did to your family, your mom. That stigma, right? And that shame of knowing, just how horrible you've been as a human. It keeps a lot of people stuck,
Yeah.
So if people, like, if there was somebody who does get called an asshole a lot by other people, does that mean that they are asking for a friend?
Well,
I think you're just misunderstood, Jarett. That's all.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Well, it's that old thing, right? Like, if you're driving to work and someone cuts you off, it's like, oh, you saw it. There was an asshole, But like, if you continue to see assholes all day,
maybe
you're
it's
the
you.
asshole.
Maybe you're just looking in the mirror. Yeah.
So, Joseph, obviously, Recovery Unplugged has a certain patient that is perfect for that program. And again, there's a ton of different programs that work, but you guys are obviously targeted for, I don't want to say targeting, but you guys are serving and helping a certain patient. Who is that?
Well, I think that's the beautiful part of Unplugged, right? Because most people hear about what we do and they're like, oh, it's rehab for musicians, right? And it's like, well, no, not really. because what we use from music is the way like humans respond to music, right? Like science, like this is what your brain does when you hear music. But so it's really broad. You know, we get everything from like the 65-year-old retiree to the 17-year-old artsy heroin addict kid that just got out of high school, right? But you know, we seem to do our best work with people who are strong-minded and have kind of challenged traditional treatment ideas. You know, they've been to rehab before, they've heard kind of, you know, your usual spiel about triggers and thinking errors and powerlessness. We do really well with, you know, creative types, and we just do good with, like I said earlier, you know, square pegs and round holes, right? People
Mm-hmm.
that for whatever reason don't quite fit into what I'll call your mainstream recovery model. Those are our people. Like those are the people that get to us and the lights come on and they say that they couldn't have gotten sober anywhere else.
Wow.
Those are our people. I'll tell you all a quick story. You know, when we first opened in Austin, we'd been open for about a month and we got a call. And it was a young lady who was trying to get her dad into treatment, and he was 63 years old, and we were like, man, I don't know if we're the place for this guy. Like he's a little older. I don't know if he's gonna fit in around here. And he showed up and he had a mullet and an Iron Maiden t-shirt with the sleeves cut off, and we looked at him and we were like,
Yes.
welcome home, buddy. Welcome
Come
home.
on in.
So
That's awesome.
It's hard to give you like a good definition, but like when that person's in front of you, you know it. You know? Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's a guitar behind you. Obviously, you're a
Yes.
musician yourself,
Yes.
and the bass clef behind your ear and all that.
Yeah.
When did you start playing music?
I started playing music. I was about 10 years old when my grandfather gave me my first guitar. And, you know, I was I've always been a mediocre. I'm a punk rock guitar player. You know what I mean? So like mediocre at best. And when I first went to college, I was majoring in music and I did classical guitar for a while, which now is like an adult with 3 kids and stuff. That's kind of more what I can make space for. Is, you know, quiet classical guitar in the evening by
That's
myself.
beautiful.
Yeah. But you know, you know, in that apartment, that little crack pad apartment that I had, there was many a Sublime song played on actually neither of these guitars. I was gonna be like, this guitar. I was like, no,
No, that's not it.
well, I don't have any of those guitars
You could have
anymore.
said it was. We wouldn't know the difference.
I know, but I try to live a life of honesty
Authenticity,
nowadays.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So what are you listening to? What are you listening to now? Now, obviously, there's no such thing as a CD player in a car anymore. But what are you listening to on your way into work in the morning?
Well, today I was listening to a podcast, but no, you know, I go back and forth. I really like, you know, the early 2000s emo scene. I like 85 to 94 punk rock.
Such a specific year, 94. What happened?
94 is like when Green Day blew up and all that stuff happened, you know? So
more the
like
pop punk?
Yeah. So like Green Day was cool up till Dookie. Dookie was the last good one. The Offspring was great until Smash, like that whole thing.
Oh, Kelly.
I love Smash. It's all good.
No, like
There's room
Smash
for everyone.
was the last good album. Smash was the last good one. That's what I'm saying.
They had some good stuff after that.
I'm really eclectic, you know, much like most people my age that are musician people. I'm into vinyl and buy random vinyls. So I've been listening to this reggae record somebody just recommended to me, Holly Cook.
Oh, nice.
Listen to that this morning. And then, you know, Sublime stuff is speckled in there just kind of always.
Nice.
I'm one of those freaks that puts their whole music library on shuffle.
Yes.
And doesn't have playlists.
Yeah.
So we'll go. It'll go. Wu-Tang, Jazz, Sublime, Operation
Yeah.
Ivy, like all back to back.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah, it
No.
can feel a bit like multiple personalities.
Oh, I think Kelly, I don't know. I'm 37. I don't know how old you are, but I think it's a generational thing of like, if you're above the age of 30, you just don't make playlists.
It could be. It could be. I don't have time
Well,
for it.
Kelly's 29, so she wouldn't know that. Yeah.
No, I'm going to be 51 in a couple weeks. But no, I have Spotify, and so I just like songs all the time, and then I just put my liked songs on shuffle, and I never know what I'm going to get. And I could be listening to Beethoven 1 minute and Slightly Stupid the next. I mean, it's just like there's no in between. It's just
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah,
But I like that.
absolutely.
I like
Yeah.
that variety. And
Yeah.
so how did you first discover Sublime?
How did I first discover Sublime? I was 11 or 12 years old when the self-titled album came out.
Hmm.
And my mom would never let me buy CDs with the explicit
Oh
content
yeah.
warning on them, right? But
Uh-huh.
the self-titled album had all that black and white kind of tattoo art on the edges.
It
So she
camouflaged.
they camouflaged it. But so, 11, 12 years old, living in a small town, right? Like I saw What I Got on MTV, and I was like, okay,
Mm.
I'll buy that album. And it was probably one of the first albums that I could just hit play on.
Mm.
And knew every single lyric, can play half the songs on the guitar, and I think a lot of kids my age did that, right? Bought that album and were like, oh my god, this is great. But I was always kind of a music nerd, and so like I went deep into it. I was like, okay, well, what else have they got? Okay, they got Robin the Hood, okay, 40 Ounces to Freedom, all the weird Jaw Won't Pay the Bills, the demo tape,
Yeah.
all the live albums, all the rarities and obscurities and songs that the Everything Under the Sun collection when that came out. I don't know, like 2005 or something. Like I love it all.
Mm.
And honestly, I was talking to a friend of mine about it today. Like I was always attracted to like the darker side of music,
Hmm.
right? And one of my other favorite bands at that time in my life was Everclear.
Hmm.
And their first album, the singer sings a lot about his heroin addiction. And I don't want to say that like music glamorized it, but part of me was like, this is that thing that they do, or that
Right.
they did.
Right.
And it to me made it more acceptable, not more appealing, but
Hmm.
more I don't know how to
Yeah, it
explain it
validated
properly.
it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
validated it a little bit. And it's I don't know, it like when I hear a song like Pool Shark, right?
Mm.
It's like that's that reality of addiction that we were talking about,
Right. Right.
and like you think about like what it takes to write a lyric like someday I'm gonna lose the war,
Mm.
and in that song. And I mean, I get goosebumps right now just talking
Yeah.
about it. Like it's it Bradley's one of those musicians that like I feel like I know him just
Yeah.
because of how important the music has been in my life. And when I first realized like, wow, like to take a pen and write that down and then record it in a song, like that's a dark place, you
Yeah.
know
It's
and
raw.
but that's a place that I'm familiar with. And like you were talking about, right, like millions of Americans know exactly what that line means.
Right.
For sure, and I'll tell
um
you on the flip side, and I've told it on this podcast many times, is that because of hearing that song and understanding the story and the connection that I had with the music, it did the exact opposite for me. It made me say, you know what? I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to dabble. I'm not going to try. And as a lot of
yeah,
my friends started kind of breaking off into partying and doing that stuff, that was really a big reason why I didn't. It was because
yeah.
I felt like here's somebody that I have this incredible music connection to, and he hit that landmine, and now I'm going to avoid it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow the opposite of that, and
Mm,
it's so crazy how different experiences affect people differently. And I've
Yeah.
heard a ton of people say, just like well, it was in the movies, it was in the music, it glorified it, it made it, and
Yeah.
I totally see that 100%. I can see how that happens,
hmm
and for myself, having it glorified like that showed me stuff like, fuck, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on the flip side too, like Sublime music has been there for like some like really beautiful moments in my life. Like
sure.
my firstborn son, the first album he ever listened to in his entire life was 40 Ounces to Freedom, right?
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. Oh,
or the
Well, that
Marley
puts you up for a
medley.
Dad of the Year award right
it
there,
really,
buddy.
that's
Yeah.
good parenting. Yeah, that is good parenting.
But like also the Marley medley, right? Like, with
Yeah,
this
love
train is
that.
bound for glory and stone
Uh-huh.
you build to refuse. Like that song has gotten
Mm,
me through all kinds of things,
yeah.
um, either listening to it or playing it myself, singing, like saying those words. Just, it's crazy, right? How, even though Brad's been gone for a long time now, like there's still people today, right? Like literally today that are getting joy out of life and getting positive benefits from his music, and
Yeah.
like how cool is it to have that kind of a legacy, you
That's
know,
mind blowing. Yeah, that's mind
like that
blowing.
kind of impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still kids at Hot Topic right now rocking Sublime shirts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember the first time I went into a Target and they had the Sublime shirts. I'm like, damn, they made it. Like when you're
Yeah,
in Target, that's like so mainstream, you
yeah.
know?
It ain't no
Chip and Joanna
Walmart. We're
Gaines.
talking Target.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Target,
Yeah,
upscale.
Tarjay, man.
Yeah, music is so powerful. In fact, I I do occasionally make a playlist, and I have one that I made that is all the songs that were a part of my life at different times of my life, and it's kind of
Mhm.
some were ones that I was listening to at that time, and others are ones that maybe are more current, but that speak to me about those things, and it's just really powerful to me that music can evoke so much emotion and whether it's joy and excitement or sadness and tragedy, but and it's not like that for everybody, and that took me a while to figure out also that not everybody's that way, but a lot of people are, and I think the ones that do connect with music and continue to connect with music throughout their lifetime, they're the ones that really can benefit in powerful ways, whether it's making it a part of recovery or even just a part of therapy or just of everyday life. It's just such a powerful element that a lot of times we take for granted because sometimes it's just always there, in
Yeah,
the background. But
yeah,
I do think it's an amazing thing to be able to have such an impact that Brad's been gone for 25 years, and like you said, people are still getting something out of that, still incorporating that music into their life and finding an importance in it and finding themselves in it. And that to me is just mind blowing. And that's the part that I wish Brad was here to see about his musical
yeah,
career. The way that
yeah.
there's so many people like you that feel like him because of his
Mhm.
music, because he was so genuine and authentic and raw and just putting it all out there. And that to me is his real legacy, that he's connected with people in
Yeah.
such a powerful way. And that I
Well,
think would blow his mind.
yeah. Well, I mean, like what what you just described, having that playlist of like kind of different eras of your life
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. That's actually a thing we do at Unplugged. Is we have clients do
Oh,
something called My Life in Song.
yes, that's great.
And like, as they build that playlist, right, you have to stop and sit and kind of reflect on yourself, right? And think
Yeah.
about like what was happening, when I was 10,
Mm,
what song is part of that, like you reflect and you look back,
yeah.
but then so it's a tool for you to like look at yourself. But then, when you share it with your therapist and you share it kind of with other members of your group, it's a way for you to get vulnerable,
Right.
and talk about some real shit.
Yeah.
But then, right, as you're sharing music, like when I was talking about with Tyson, right, when someone says like, oh man, you know, when I was 13, my parents got divorced, and you know, Metallica's Black album really helped me get through it, right?
Mm.
Someone else in that group is going to be like, Metallica, yeah, you know,
Mhm.
and they're going to start having connections
Right.
from that little
Connections.
seed of
Yeah.
the music, right? Um, and it's so cool. Sometimes we have like, you know, these older cats and the younger dudes that like don't think they have anything in common, and then, you know, they bring up Sublime, or they bring up The
Mm.
Doors, or they bring up Pink
Yeah.
Floyd, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, all right, you're
I
cool.
get you
Like
now. Yeah.
we can be friends now, right?
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah,
So
because like that music's universal, right?
it really is. It really is. And that's powerful. That's really powerful. So tell me about your family. You mentioned you have 3 kids. How old are they?
Yes. So I have an 11-year-old named Harper, a 9-year-old named Jackson, and a 3-year-old named Ella.
I
Darling.
know
Um,
that
Oh.
song, man.
yeah.
I've got 12, 8, and 4. So
There we go. Yeah, we're right on track. Yeah. um, you know, it's kind of cool that like I met my wife when I had 45 days sober,
Wow.
and I was about 9 months sober when we found out she was pregnant with
Hmm.
our oldest. So I've got 13 years sober, and Harper will be 12 in December. So
Wow. Good
the
job.
math checks out. And you know, at 9 months sober, like just having learned to like handle my own life, you know, and like keep my job at the local Mexican restaurant for, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
like pay rent and stuff like that. Um, and all of a sudden being like, okay, well, you're gonna be a dad now. Like, absolutely terrifying thing to
Oh
experience in
my
early recovery,
gosh.
but also like
Right.
the tools of recovery, you know, the fellowship, the spirituality, you know, the growth that I had already had in learning to stay sober. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing now. You know, I was able to accept it and face it, as opposed to like running from it, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Escaping. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I didn't have to escape from it, you know, and now I got, you know, uh, I got these kids running around. Harper's about to be a teenager, and that's
Wow.
but they're great, you know. The two older ones are both musicians. You know, they
Oh
both play
wow.
piano.
Oh.
Um, the oldest one likes pop music. He's into what his mom likes, but the 9-year old knows what's up, and he listens to my music. um,
Uh,
but it's really cool, you know. They you know, like my kids, both me and my wife, you know, our marriage has lasted longer than either of our parents' marriages, you know. So like to be
wow.
able to give them a home where like both parents are here,
Yeah, it's huge.
and you know, they don't know what it's like for daddy to not come home at night.
Hmm.
uh you know, they've gotten told, you know, I love you every single day they've been alive.
Mm.
um it's it's just so cool, you know, like they have no doubts in their mind that they're loved, that they're important, that they're valued, that they're I don't know, like it's kind of cool for like a fucked up drug addict to be able to do that for
Right?
somebody, you know what I mean?
Right? Yeah. You know, it's because you're very intentional about your parenting, I would imagine. Right? So
Yeah,
having the background that you have, it probably makes you much more, you do things with a purpose. And
yeah,
whereas I do think, maybe a lot of the generations before us, that you have a baby. Okay, so now you're a parent, but there's so much more to parenting,
yeah.
and so I think, there's something to be said for being very intentional. Do your kids know about that you're in recovery or about any of your past? I know they're still pretty young,
So
but
yeah, so the 3-year-old has no clue, obviously.
sure.
I don't think
Yeah.
her brain is developed to understand those
No.
concepts. So both my boys have known for a while that I don't drink,
Hmm.
right? For a long time we told them that I was allergic.
Hmm.
But doing the work that I do, right? Like I get phone calls all the time from
Sure.
potential clients, from family members, and I very often share a little bit of my story with them.
Mm.
So they both know that I'm in recovery and that
Awesome.
at one point I had to go to treatment.
Hmm.
Um, but only the 11-year-old knows some of the details.
Sure.
And that, and I shared them, like you were saying, very intentionally. He was having a real tough day and was doing that like shutdown, I don't want to talk to anybody thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving him to soccer practice, and I was like, you know what, this is the time. And, I just kind of talked to him about why it's important to talk about feelings so that you don't handle them in unhealthy ways. And daddy used to do it like this, and it caused this situation, this situation. He made your grandma cry, and that's why daddy can't drink and doesn't drink. And that's why, when you don't want to talk to us, we get so concerned, because also you have my genetics. So like, just like
Yeah.
you have blue eyes because of me, you could also have this because of me.
Ah.
And as long as we can talk about things, hopefully you won't go down that same road too.
Wow.
And of course he said nothing.
Sure. That's a lot. That's a lot for him to
Yeah.
take in. Yeah.
Yeah. But like a couple of days later, he started asking me some questions. So that, they know I'm in recovery. They know that I help other people do that. They know that a lot of times I'm talking to people who are sick. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a gift that you've given your son, to let him know that, that you, his father, someone he looks up to and admires, has struggled in the past. I don't think we do our kids any favors when we try to make them think that we're perfect, because then as soon as they face a struggle, they feel alone in it. What are they going to do? They must be doing something wrong if they're struggling with something. And, so obviously there needs to be, a certain level of removal, but there also needs to be some transparency, so that they know that you are real, and that when they struggle with something, they can come to you because you've struggled too, and you can relate to that. I think that's really awesome that you're able to do that. I am so excited about what you guys are doing with Recovery Unplugged, and I'm so excited. I want to come visit sometime and see the facility. I'm just so inspired by the program that you guys have. It's everything that we have been talking about for the past almost 4 years, since we started the Knoll Family Foundation, with this idea of creating this environment. And I don't know if you know the story, but it all sort of sprang forth from my nephew being in treatment and seeing him gravitate towards other musicians, both while he was in the program and then after he left, and staying, and just seeing that how powerful that was for him as a musician, how necessary it was to incorporate music into his life and into his recovery. And that's really what sort of birthed this whole idea. And so it's hugely important to us, not just to have a place that offers treatment to musicians that can't afford it, but does it in a way that gives them the best, the best potential for a positive outcome, and does it in a way that can really reach them in a meaningful way and have a permanent effect. And I think that's what you guys are doing, and I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, your mission is it's really it's on point, because when you're going to school for counseling, they teach you this term called cultural competency, right? Which means that like whatever community you end up in, right? If it's a white community, black community, Hispanic, you need to understand their culture and their language and adapt what you do to them, right? And musicians have a language and a culture, and if the people working with them don't at the very least understand where they're coming from, I mean, most rehabs don't let you have guitars, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
or music at all. Yeah. So, no, that's beautiful. And one thing that I've gotten the opportunity to do with Recovery Unplugged is I get to go around and do trainings on, kind of like the basics of the stuff that we do, right? So, and, I got asked one time, like, you do all this training about what y'all do. Like, isn't that like trade secrets? Like, what's to stop somebody from going and like opening up another rehab like this? I'm like, I hope they do, for organizations like Bradley's House to, if there's anything that we do that we can share that can inform you guys or inspire you guys to create something that's going to help somebody else, like, why wouldn't we do that?
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, Joseph, for the listener who's listening to this episode, they've got their earphones in, they're sitting in their living room, and they're glancing across the kitchen table at their 63-year-old dad with the mullet and the Iron Maiden t-shirt on, and she's thinking, "Wow, this is exactly what I need to look into." How can people find you, reach you, follow you guys, get in touch?
Yeah. So myself and Recovery Unplugged are both super easy to find. I'm on Facebook, Joseph Gorordo. You can find me. That's cool. I give Recovery Unplugged, you can find us on recoveryunplugged.com. We've got a Facebook, we've got an Instagram. Someone's trying to start a TikTok. I don't know if that's going to work out, but it's on there. I also have, I give people my phone number. Like, I don't, I'm really like I said earlier, like I'm an open book. Like anybody who wants to get a hold of me can find me pretty easily online. And I'm always super happy to help. Much like Tyson, like if I get a call, if they don't have, the resources or the insurance that we're in network with to be able to come to us, that's still a soul that's been entrusted to me that I need to find and connect with something that's going to fit for them.
That's absolutely beautiful. And for our listeners, that is Joseph. It's Gorordo, because I know somewhere there's a listener that's going, "Honey, where's the grr button on this damn keyboard?"
I think you missed an R. Did you miss an R?
You missed an R. You missed an R.
Did I? Gorordo.
There we go.
All right, there we go. I got it. So, all right, cool, man. It's great to know that you guys are out there, and for anyone who's listening, check them out and follow them on social media. And if you know somebody that could benefit from their help, obviously Tyson is my go-to, and he's had nothing but amazing things to say about you guys. Mm-hmm. And after getting a chance to speak with you, it's very clear that you guys are doing some amazing things.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us and for being so open and sharing your story, because obviously so many people can relate to it. And hopefully there are people listening that connected with what you had to say, and it gives them hope. So thank you very much for that, and keep up the great work. You will definitely be hearing from me soon, because I am so excited about what you guys are doing, and I would really love to be able to, maybe collaborate in the future, or at least, like I said, come and check out what you're doing. You guys have really paved the way and are doing some great work, and I have a great respect for that.
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Joseph. We really loved having you on the show tonight. Please come back sometime. We would love to talk with you again.
Anytime. Thank you guys.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Had a good time, y'all. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Well, Kelly, I know it seems like almost every week I say it, but once again, you did not disappoint with the guest that you got set up for us today. Somebody who's out there, again, like I said in the beginning of the show, fighting the war right alongside the Knoll Family Foundation and all these other organizations. But it was really great to hear about this one.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for what they're doing and the program that they've developed. It's just right on point with everything that we've talked about with Bradley's House, and to be able to see, an organization that's already doing that and already making an impact with it, it's just really, really exciting for me.
Yeah, it was, and it was great speaking with Joseph. So if you guys are listening, yeah, go ahead and check them out. Like you said, they're on social media. I know they're on Instagram and on Facebook, and just give them a like and a follow, and see what's going on with them. I'm sure they're constantly sharing different information. And if you know anybody that could benefit from their help, it certainly seems like the right place, because what they're doing and speaking with Joseph, it was really awesome to hear about how they're doing the way they're doing it.
Absolutely. And again, their website is recoveryunplugged.com.
Yeah, check them out. And don't be shy to check out the KnollFamilyFoundation.org. Guys, we talk about it every single week. We are doing this podcast and sharing these interviews and having some fun, but we're doing it so we can get those doors open to Bradley's House. It's been the Knoll Family Foundation's goal since day one, and nothing's changed. You guys can visit, pick up some merchandise. There's some awesome t-shirts and hoodies and socks. And actually, there's a little news on those socks, right, Kelly?
There is some news on those socks. We have a new sock coming out from our lovely friends at Merge 4. And I'm super excited about it because it's based on the album artwork from the house that Bradley built, the artwork that Justin Oltisvik created for us. So yeah, it's beautiful. I've seen the socks. They are fabulous. That's the good news. The bad news is that the old ones are no longer available except through the Knoll Family Foundation website until our stock is gone. So when they're gone for good. So if you love those socks, make sure to go grab yourself a pair before we run out.
Limited edition merch is what we're talking about here, guys.
Yes.
And we know that the internet is full with a ton of places that you guys can get your Bradley Knoll related merchandise. And just know that when you pick up a shirt from the Knoll Family Foundation, all of those proceeds go towards the goal of getting Bradley's house open, so the foundation can start helping these musicians who don't have anywhere else to turn. So pick up a t-shirt, buy one for a friend, and of course there is always the link tree that Anna is so kind to share in the description of every single show. You can click on that and find all of the various ways that you can help and donate $1 or $2. And guys, I'm serious when I say that. If everybody that's listening and sharing and enjoying the show and the foundation, if we all just pitch in $1, it goes a long way. So, we appreciate if you guys can do that and help out so we can get Bradley's house up and built. And that's the ultimate goal here.
Absolutely. And, we're getting closer every day. And so we really appreciate everything that everybody's done so far and continuing to be a part of this journey with us. As you said earlier, it's, we're doing it all together. We couldn't do it alone.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the awesome compilation album, The House That Bradley Built, available at law-records.com. Yasad and Paul have been guests on the show, and you guys can find that in our archives. You guys make sure you're subscribing on YouTube to Bradley's House. Anna makes sure that every single one of these audio podcasts makes it on YouTube available for anybody who doesn't know how to use the app or want to find the app. It's right there on YouTube. If you guys subscribe, it goes a long way for us. You can catch all of our archives. We had Papa Jim on. We've spoken with Jacob and Miguel and Marshall. We've had some amazing musicians, too many to even name off of the compilation album. Some amazing people from the world of recovery. So go ahead and like and subscribe to that. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating if you think that we've gone ahead and deserved it. And if we haven't, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and then email me at bradleyshousepodcast@gmail.com and let me know what we have to do to get that 5-star rating, because that's important to us. And we won't settle for anything else. So
very true.
We certainly appreciate that. Now, guys, speaking with Joseph today and talking about the different things that happen in recovery, it kind of got me thinking, and I know that we usually end every single episode of Bradley's House with a song, but today we're going to do something a little different. Shared from our good friend Eddie Villa's YouTube page is a phone message recording of your brother, Kelly, while he was in a recovery facility. And it just kind of shows all of the emotions and a lot of the personality of Brad, who on the spot writes a song and performs a piece of that as well. We're going to play that at the end of this. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, you can follow the Knoll Family Foundation on all forms of social media, and you can follow the Bradley's House group on Facebook. I'm Jarett Orr. She's Kelly Knoll. We're out of time. You don't have to go home, but it's time to leave Bradley's house.
This is Bradley. Bradley. The lead singer dude from Sublime guy. You know what, guys? I don't want to hear no fucking hype. Don't believe it. I wrote a new fucking tune. The new record's going to be coming out. It's called I Don't Want No More Friends. It goes, I don't want no more friends. I tell you, hey, are the ones who will terrify you, oh Lord, and then they'll try. It will try in every way, Lord, to run your life. Okay, I don't know who's out. I think this is Steve Mattis's pad I got right here. guy right here, his name is Nicholas what? Nicholas something. He wants to do promotion, and he's a good young kid, and he'll fucking he'll do anything. He'll fucking lick stamps. He'll do fucking designing. He can do spreadsheet, word processing. Right now he's fucking macking on. He's a fucking hound, a hound dog. As you guys all know, I quit all that shit, so I don't want to hear none of that fucking shit. That's what I'm pretty much fucking into, okay, guys? And also I like leaving long messages taking up all of people's tapes so that they don't have any more room to bone shake brotherhood my fucking ass on. Anyways, you know how it is being a heroin addict like me. When you miss, you're all the money goes down the drain because, you know, so I just missed right now, and so I need extra money, and I need it right now. And I also called to tell you that whatever show you had with Sublime this weekend, we can't do it anymore. We fucking just because we don't feel like it, and we're suing you too. Fuck! Where are you? I'm fucking bored. Michael Happel and Eric Wilson are living the good life in Mexico right now, and all the money that I'm fucking making them, and they leave me back here to write the new record. But I'm writing it. I got the new record. It goes, if you ever see me rock, you think I was a superstar, perpetrating a Jamaican, trying to make $1. So rock me tonight for old time's sake. Hey, hey, rock with me, because I don't want no more friends. I tell you, they are the ones who would terrify you, oh Lord, and then they'll try in every way, Lord, to run your life. And I don't want no more friends. I tell you. This is Bradley. Bradley, you know, the lead singer dude from Sublime guy. You know what, guys? I don't want to hear no fucking hype.